Beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises! It just had to be. Dax corner and it goes. Glance towards goal! And Rovers have taken the lead! And Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season.
Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome back to another live edition of On the Other Side. Live with me, Ryan Hildred from Rovers Chat, and it was a hard-earned draw for Rovers last time out, wasn't it? Away to West Brom in what turned out to be a good week of results for Rovers. Thanks to Millwall in part, which we'll talk about shortly. But all attention now is getting back to winning ways, isn't it? As we welcome Millwall to Ewood Park on Saturday afternoon. Giving us the lowdown on the Lions is Millwall fan Lucas Ball. You've been on the show before, Lucas. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you. And thank you for that favour on Tuesday night, wasn't it? So we were buzzing with that result. So thank you for that one.
So we do what we can to help out.
And Rovers fans watching, as we always say, if you are not subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button. Please give this video a like for us and turn on all notifications using that bell icon. Super Chat is available as it always is. And a big thank you to Blue Rose Capital and 6yardsout.com. So, Lucas, let's make a start on this preview then. We've spoken before, haven't we, about Millwall being in and around that chasing pack of playoff teams in recent seasons. So you've had 2 8th place finishes and 11th place finish in 3 of the last 4 seasons. That, for me, is a really admirable effort for Millwall when you think about budgets and resources and things. This season, you've probably not been as close to the playoffs, but you are only 6 points off 6 and you're in 14th spot. So how are Millwall fans viewing the season so far?
I think for most of us, if you asked us this question a week ago, you'd have got probably a slightly more negative answer than we will after 2 wins now in a row. And you know, our home form recently has been pretty good, to be fair, which was an issue under Rowett for a while. It's just been a case of we just haven't been able to find the back of the net often enough, which for us for the last few years has been a perennial issue, really. We just haven't been able to find that missing link all the time. Players have hit form and then picked up bad injuries. You look at Tom Bradshaw, he was on a really good run of scoring and then picked up like a 3-month injury. Shea Ojo at the same time hadn't hit the same form in terms of goal contributions, but was really starting to come into his own and cement himself a spot in the team. Brought in Ollie Burke on loan in January, who actually has looked all right so far. He's out for a few weeks with a hamstring injury, looks like till the next international break. Luke Freeman comes in, plays about 15 minutes away at Fulham, and is out for the rest of the season probably. So it's been our luck with injuries as much as anything. That's just been horrific. And it's just limited us so much. We can't rotate, and we're picking up more injuries as a result of that. At times, but yeah, I think just a lot of fans' frustrations is just that sometimes we're a little bit too passive under Rowett, or they certainly view it that way, and that we should go for it a little bit more, because certainly when we do play football well and get the ball down, we've played some really nice football, particularly on Tuesday. Like we scored 2 really good goals, some other really good moves, and dominated QPR for much of the 90 minutes. QPR really had nothing, and a lot of their fans were saying it was one of their worst performances of the season. So, obviously part of that's them, but we've obviously also forced them into that. So I think people are just frustrated that it's really what we can do, and we just haven't shown that often enough.
And when we spoke last season, we mentioned the large amount of draws that you had. I think there was an incredible run of 6 or 7 in a row or something daft like that. And that probably stopped any playoff push. This season, less draws, but very much a mid-table record that you've got 11 wins, 10 draws, 10 defeats, and then 33 goals for, 33 goals against. So, what has been the story of the season so far? Is it just, as you say, not turning any dominance into more results? Is it fair results that you're getting against you? What's the picture there?
I think in certain games, yeah, we've just, we should have scored and taken games away from teams and haven't. But equally, just being the definition of mid-table that we are at the moment, been games where we've probably been lucky to get anything out of it and have managed to hold on for a point, or a win. Yeah, we just defensively the same. So I mean, in terms of goals conceded, our record's not bad. Look above us, and only sort of a couple of teams have conceded less in that certainly next rung up. But yeah, just defensively the last few years we've been a bit better probably than this year. And sort of there was a little bit of a period where confidence in the defence was low. We conceded 3 goals in a couple of games, which was unlike us last few years. Certainly under Rowett, you wouldn't have expected us to go 2, to have scored 2 at Bristol City New Year's Day or the day after New Year's Day, it might have been, and still end up losing the game. For us to concede 3 away from home under him has been a real rarity. So just little things like that, and then we just need to put the ball in the back of the net when we are on top. You look at some of the XG stats and that in games, and then for us to not be ahead is criminal at times, but. Unfortunately, those players that are going to score 20, 30 goals as an individual, they don't come cheap, and they don't fall within Millwall's budget, certainly.
Yeah, indeed. And do you know what? It's actually nice to speak to a fan of a club who hasn't changed their manager this season. So Gary Rowett, I think, into his 3rd season now, isn't he, with Millwall? So what is the view on the job that's being done by Rowett, by the Millwall fans?
Yeah, it's a tough one at the moment. I think there's certainly fans who are moving more towards Rowett out, just because we've been passive at times, and they deem it as that. At the same time, his win record I think is about 38%, and he's only managed us in the Championship. That includes cup games too, but. You look at some of the managers above him and their win in terms of win ratio, and their records are skewed slightly by periods in League One, where normally when we're down there, we're one of the bigger teams in the league, and we're expected to be challenging at the top end. So obviously, it just skews it that little bit. Tactically, he's fairly sound. Sometimes his substitutions can be a little bit questionable. In terms of you seem to be on top, and then he maybe bring on someone slightly more defensive, and we end up losing all the momentum and things like that. But yeah, I think overall, he's not done a bad job at all. Overall, the squad's really still not his, particularly like with a lot of the players we've had have been in on loan since he came in. Most of his transfer windows have been impacted by COVID. They wanted to do a bit more of a rebuild in January because we got quite a few players out of contract this summer, I think. And a good few loanees in as well. So they wanted to do a bit of a rebuild in January and sort of try and get that done in advance if they could. But it looks like we're going to have to wait till the summer. We found it really hard to bring anyone in January, and Freeman only just got done in the end. Burke got done maybe a week and a half before the window shut, I think. But Freeman was lucky to get done in the end. It didn't get formally done until about, I think it was like about 8 o'clock the next day after deadline day. In the end, after they submitted the deal sheet and all that, they were waiting to hear from the EFL. So, yeah, overall, pretty good job. Just fans want that little bit more excitement sometimes, and us to be that a bit more attacking because they can see what we can do in certain games, and we just don't do it often enough. So that's the real frustration, if there are any with him. But I think most fans realise that on the budget that we've got, overall, it's still a pretty good job from him.
And ultimately, what is the aim for the season? Because you're not going to go down, and you're only 6 points off the playoffs. And just looking at some of the teams that you've got to play, you've got to play Middlesbrough, you've got to play Huddersfield, you've got to play Stoke, you've got Preston. You've got teams who are kind of in and around you. So 6 points off. Is there any kind of aims for the playoffs, or is it just a case of finishing as high as you can? What is the ultimate aim this season, do you think, for Millwall?
Yeah, I think after a lot of the season so far, it's hard to get too excited about the top 6, particularly with the number of teams ahead of us in that sort of gap. But I think the next 3-4 games probably decide it. If we can get a good run in the next 3-4 games, if we can get say in the next 4 games, so we can get 3 wins, then we're possibly still right in the mix. That could lift us, to say, 12th, 11th, that sort of position, and then all of a sudden you're looking that little bit closer. So yeah, I think the next few games for that are massive. If not, then we've got some really good youngsters coming through at the moment. It looks like, you've got Tyler Bury, who scored his first Millwall goal the other night. He's looked really impactful in games when he's come on as a sub and deserved that goal. And really good finish as well for his first goal. So everyone was delighted for him. You've got Zach Lovelace, who's been on the bench a couple of times. He's only 15. He came on away at Coventry. Nana Boateng came on against Crystal Palace in the Cup. You got Hayden Muller, who's been in and around the squad for sort of the last couple of years, but had a slightly disappointing loan spell away at St Johnstone. So you've got players there who sort of look like they're going to be around for the future, and maybe if it looks like we can't get playoffs, we're not going to go down. So I think the fans will want to see them get a bit more game time and looking to build towards next season, just in that case. And we've got a couple of good youngsters out on loan too, who look like next season they might come back and be involved with the first team squad. Isaac Oluwafe's had another impressive spell at Sutton, and Alex Mitchell's been pretty good down at Leyton Orient by all accounts. So yeah, it's just seeing what those guys can do. Hopefully in pre-season, and fingers crossed they're not injured in pre-season like Oluwafe was this year, so he doesn't get the chance to prove himself to the management.
Yeah. Hello to Rovers, JG, and to Jackie. Good to have you along tonight. So Lucas, we're going to come on in a moment to talk about some of your players, and I see we've had a couple of questions about Conor Mahoney, so be ready to answer that one. Obviously, former Rovers player, but I just want to talk about your season so far in a bit of detail. So recent form, fairly mixed. 4 losses, 3 wins and a draw in the last 8 games. But obviously that huge favour that you did for Rovers the other night when you beat QPR at the Den. So how have the team been playing in the last 8 or so games?
Before the last couple, it was a very, very, very average run. I think the sort of the 0-0 against Preston in that, I think everyone just said summed up the season. It was two sides that just showed such little quality on the night. Definition of almost a mid-table dead rubber, which would probably at that point 17, 18 games to go wasn't too great to hear. The wins in there have been decent performances. The 2-0 against West Brom, we were pretty good. 2-0 against QPR was probably one of our best performances under Rowett, let alone this season. Against Cardiff, it was all right. Probably not. It wasn't quite at the same standard. But then some of the losses in between that had been really poor. Fulham game aside, I take that one out. It's like playing a bottom Premier League side, or put them in Norwich in that weird league that everyone talks about between the Premier League and the Championship. But yeah, that game aside, you don't expect to go to Craven Cottage and get anything. I certainly didn't. But yeah, we had some poor losses, but then some really good wins. So again, it sort of just sums up the real mid-table side of it, I suppose. We're just playing really well some games and getting what we deserve, and then other games we're not turning up and getting turned over. So yeah, I think we are just the absolute definition of mid-table this season, to be honest, in pretty much any measure that you can put across.
Yeah, and another measure where you can measure that is away from home. Just looking at this, it's 6 defeats in your last 8 away games, including 5 out of the last 6 away from home. So, what is the difference away from home? The style of play, what's the reason for these results on the road?
Yeah, under the first couple of years under Rowett, the away form was really good, and the concern was the home form. So now we seem to have sorted the home form out a little bit. The away form's gone pear-shaped, so it's I just don't know what we can't really seem to just pull everything together at once. I mean we like to play on the counter. We like to try and soak up pressure and hit teams on the break, and we've been pretty good at that under Rowett generally. I think this season we've probably just not been as good at soaking up that pressure. I think we probably conceded early on in games too often, and then not let ourselves build into it and things like that. And then we found it hard to get back into the games. And rare occasions where we have taken a lead away from home, we panic. We're one of the teams. There was a graphic recently looking at what teams do. I can't remember who it was by, but there was a graphic looking at what teams do after they go ahead in a game in terms of their XG and how it goes from there. And Millwall were firmly in the panic when they go ahead and sort of don't know what to do category. So I was like, yeah, I mean, anyone who watches us knew that made sense straight away. So I think it's that in terms of we just can't soak up the pressure as well this season. But hopefully the defence are looking a little bit better in the last few weeks, certainly at home. Hopefully they can translate that into stronger performances away as well.
Well, I've got the perfect tonic for you in terms of teams that panic when they go ahead. Rovers are a side that doesn't know what to do when it goes behind, and we've only come from behind once this season, Lucas. So a little bit of a tonic for you on that one. So it's a real struggle for us when we do go behind. And in terms of the playing staff, we'll come on to Mahoney in a moment, but going forward, the goals are split between Tom Bradshaw, Benik Afobe and Jed Wallace. I'll flash a graphic up in a moment. So we've spoken before about the importance of Jed Wallace, particularly last season. How important for you has it been just to take that reliance away from him and have these other players chipping in? And what do the other two bring to your attack?
Yeah, it's certainly been something we've been needing to do for sort of the last few years. Jed this season, he's still been good for the most part. Last couple of games, he's come back in and done well. He's been out injured for a little while, so and obviously in January had all the transfer speculation too, with him being out of contract in the summer. So yeah, he's still doing his thing. It was very good Tuesday night, involved in both goals. So he's still very important, and we certainly play better as an attacking unit when he's in the team. But yeah, Tom Bradshaw, really unfortunate this season. He hit a really good patch of form and got an injury that put him out for about 12 weeks total, I think. So we're still waiting for him to come back. It's probably going to be a little while still. But yeah, he was everything he was touching at one point was turning to goals, leading the line really well, formed a pretty exciting partnership with Afobe. Them two were linking up really well. Afobe was able to drop deeper at times and sort of be the link man, and they were doing that well between them. And then Afobe was getting some chances of his own and doing okay as well. So he's led the line for most of the season and been pretty good. Afobe, he's out injured at the moment typically, but yeah, he's done well, and I think he's got another year on his Stoke deal. So whether we can get a permanent deal done in the summer, I think Rowett would want him. It's just whether we can get a deal done and the finances, and obviously he'll be on a bigger contract at Stoke than what we can afford to offer on a permanent. So it'll just be a case of wait and see with that one, I think. But yeah, Jed's, yeah, hopefully we can keep him, but I can't see him signing a new contract. I don't blame him. He's been excellent for us for years. So if these are to be his final 15 games for the club, whatever there is left, then let's make him a good 15, hopefully, and see where it takes us. But hopefully he gets a good send off at the end of the season if this is the end of his journey with us, and it'll go down as certainly one of my favourite players, and for a lot of people. So it's just hopefully it's not the end, but I think it's quite likely that it is.
Yeah, it's a horrible situation that we're going through, similar with Ryan Nyambi, actually, our right back. He came through the academy and a very well-liked player, and he's probably looking like the one least likely to sign a contract. Hopefully Lenihan can sign one, but we're going through the same with Nyambi, as I say. Now, I've got to ask you about Conor Mahoney, because Owen's asked him about Mahoney, and then also Martin. Mahoney looked class for Rovers as a youngster. Where do you think it's gone wrong? And yeah, just Mahoney this season, Lucas, just one start and 6 sub appearances, so not in your side really. So yeah, where do you think it's gone wrong for him, and what have you made of him?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard for him to get in anywhere near the team. He's been injured for a while, to be fair. He was out for a while. He's fit now. But yeah, Rowett doesn't seem to trust him. He's out of contract this summer. Doesn't look like we're going to offer him fresh terms, even with Jed leaving, or likely to be leaving. So I think that says it all, really. We're losing someone as key as Jed, and we're not too fussed about losing Mahoney as well in the same summer, who was sort of brought in to try and shoulder some of that attacking burden with Jed. He's just, I don't know. I mean, in this 5-2-1-2 that we're playing at the moment, I'm not sure how well the number 10 role there suits him. You'd feel like it should, but yeah, I think too often in games he just looks a bit hit and miss, and is he really? It looks like, is he that bothered at times? And certainly that's something that Millwall fans are never going to be too keen on. So, you know, they don't care so much if you don't have the best game technically, as long as it looks like you're still, you know, going to do everything you can for the shirt and giving it absolutely everything. And sometimes it just doesn't quite look like that for him. I think there's no doubt he's got technical ability. You know, we've seen that as a youngster coming through, and then at Birmingham on loan before he joined us, and certainly with us at times. You know, some of his deliveries that he's put in through the couple of years, even that he's been with us, have been very good. But yeah, I think there's an element that Rowett just doesn't trust him enough. I think to do the defensive side of the game as well when he does play. So you know, it's sort of been a bit doomed for him. We did try him at wing back, I think, in pre-season in a couple of games, and but that obviously didn't really work out because he can't get a game there now either. So yeah, it's just one of them it's really not worked out. It's one of them transfers that both sides are going to regret. You know, we paid a 7-figure sum for him, I think, in the end, which for us is close to our transfer record. And you know, we're going to end up letting him go on a free by the looks of it. So I think maybe for him, he probably needs to go and be the big fish in a small pond somewhere. Maybe drop down to sort of a team in top end of League One, and hopefully go and set that alight for a season, and hopefully bring a team up, and then, you know, earn the trust of that manager and still be in the manager's at the forefront of the manager's thoughts coming into the Championship. I think that might do him a real favour and sort of help him get his career back on track. But who knows?
And before we move on to your predicted side, Lucas, you know, you mentioned the 33 goals that you've conceded this season, one of the Championship's best records, actually, and the same as Rovers. So who have been the key performers in defence for you this season?
Yeah, I mean, Sean Hutchinson, I think, is one of the best centre-halves in the league. I think has been for a couple of years. You know, he's excellent, dominant in the air most of the time, good one-on-one defender, wins a lot of his duels. Often wears the armband for us. Alex Pearce is club captain, but doesn't really play too often. Jake Cooper probably not had his best season. Still been a little bit more solid recently. He's been playing centrally in the back three a bit more recently, which seems to have suited him a little bit more this season. But Murray Wallace has probably been player of the season so far. He's played left wing back. He's played left back when we played a 4. He's played centre back in the 3 as well. It's been excellent, really good defensively. You know, really like a rugged player, always gives it all. You know, what sort of typical Millwall player. Deserves a Scotland call up for me. I don't know why he's not in the frame for international, particularly given he can play centre back as well. And I'm not too impressed by Scotland's centre back options. You know, I get him not getting in the team at left back. You know, they've got Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney, so fair enough on that one. But maybe at centre back then. But yeah, he's also chipped in with some goals as well. He's got 5 goals at the other end, so he's been pretty good. And then Danny McNamara, he's come through the youth academy and been really consistent. And hopefully he can just start adding those goals and assists to his game from right wing backs. He's got everything else at the moment. You know, he can thunder into a challenge, good defensively, and he can get up and down all game. So he just needs to start adding those goal contributions and picking out final passes and sort of doing the same thing that Scott Malone was doing last season for us from that position on the other side. So hopefully he can start doing that and develop into one of the best fullbacks in the league. And then you've got Bielkowski between the sticks, who's, you know, just a very good keeper for the level and has saved us many times. And I'm sure we'll do a few more times before the end of the season.
Yeah. So, Lucas, before we came live, we asked you for your predicted 11. You've mentioned a few injuries in the Millwall ranks coming into this game. So, talk us through this side. You've gone 5-2-1-2 system. You've obviously mentioned some of these already, but talk us through that side and what you're expecting them to bring to Ewood Park on Saturday.
So we played 5-2-1-2 for most of the time recently. For most of Rowett's tenure, we've played some sort of a variant of 5 at the back, whether that's been a 5-3-2 or a 5-2-3 or this 5-2-1-2. So the back 3 at the moment sort of picks itself. Those 3. I mean, Dan Ballard's just coming back to fitness, but I can't see him being thrown in this weekend, given the recent form, unless Rowett decides to move Murray Wallace out to left wing back, and then Ballard could come into the 3. McNamara and Malone, they're the only wing backs available at the moment, really. Then you got Mitchell and Kieftenbeld in midfield. Who Mitchell, player that Millwall fans love, having come through the academy and stuff. He's probably not been in his best form recently, but him and Keith have sort of bolstered the midfield last few games and seem to be doing well together. So Kieftenbeld's probably showing his best form in a Millwall shirt at the same time. So I can't see him being dropped. And then you've got Jed's come back into the team last few games and done well, so he'll start in the number 10 role, I expect. And then Mason Bennett, who's got 3 goals in 5 and 2 in 2 heading into this one up front with Tyler Bury likely, given Afobe and Burker are injured, and Bradshaw. So that'll be those 2 up front, I'd expect, and that was the 3 that caused QPR problems for much of the game on Tuesday night, because Burke came off fairly early. So hopefully they can cause your backline a few problems too. Bury obviously will be full of confidence as well. Got his first Millwall goal on Tuesday night. So we were all very happy for him, and hopefully he can add to that in the next few weeks and sort of really push for a place in our team next season. He always looks like he wants to run at people. He's an exciting player, and we haven't had too many of those this season a lot of the time. So hopefully he can really start to make the most of his skill, and he's got got some good raw pace and a player that defenders will grow to be scared of, I'm sure.
Jed Wallace in that little position behind your front two just makes me a little bit anxious, because there have been some kind of number 10 roles that have caused us problems this season. Callum O'Hare is one who sticks out for Coventry, so if Wallace can pick up some of those spaces, we're just going to have to watch that, Rovers. And in terms of areas of weakness where we can exploit you, Lucas, where can Rovers hurt Millwall on Saturday?
Yeah, I think probably the most likely will be coming down, attacking down your right-hand side, so our left-hand side, if Malone starts. Defensively this season, he's been a bit erratic at times, and certainly not hit the heights that we saw last season when he was excellent for most of the season and a contender for player of the season. There's always been slight defensive concerns. Just that's the way Malone plays. He's a very good attacking fullback, and defensively there have always been a couple of concerns, but this season he just seems to be that little bit more erratic at times. So probably that's going to be probably the biggest weakness. Our midfield at times can start to get a little bit stretched where we've only got the 2 men. Jed will sort of be that little bit higher, obviously. So it's a case of if you guys can move the ball around Kieftenbeld and Mitchell quickly, that's more of a tactical weakness than probably a player weakness. But yeah, if you guys can get that ball moving between them 2 quickly and around those 2 quickly, then that could cause us problems and open up the game, particularly if the defence don't step up at the same time as the midfield go up. So we need to make sure we're aware of that, and maybe one of the centre-backs at times will have to step out of the 3 just to bridge that gap.
Seems ideal for either Joe Rothwell or John Buckley with what you've just described there. So a little crumb of comfort for Rovers there. So let us know what you think in the comments, Rovers fans, just hearing what Lucas has described there. But we have reached the part of the show, Lucas, where you and I are put on the spot with our score predictions. So Rovers fans, you also know what to do. Load that comments box with your predictions for the game on Saturday and how you think it will go. So Lucas, I'll start with you. How do you think the game's going to go? What is your prediction?
Yeah, I mean, we've been a lot better the last couple of games, but there have been home comforts obviously in that. And the poor away form recently doesn't fill me with too much confidence still. Hopeful that with Brereton out injured, obviously that we can hopefully limit you guys a little bit more than we maybe would have been able to. But I can't see us getting a win. Just with the way the away form's been recently, we need one to sort of try and keep these slim playoff hopes alive. But I don't think we'll get one. I can see us soaking up the pressure for a while. Maybe getting ahead. Maybe you guys end up breaking us down, and then when the other team getting an equaliser, I think it'll be 1-1. That's what I'm going to go for.
1-1. In terms of my prediction, it's certainly an important game for Rovers, certainly in the fan base. The players might not be viewing it that way, but fans are. We've had a tough recent run with the sides that we're playing. So, it sounds crazy to say that Millwall at home is one of our easier fixtures in the ones that we've had, because it's not. Every game's hard, but it's the one that the fans are kind of looking at and saying, this is the one that we have to go and win. So I think there will be an air of kind of nervousness in our fan base. I think if we haven't taken the lead in the first half, I think nerves and kind of anxieties will start to creep in. So think it's important for Rovers to be ahead at half-time to stop that anxiety creeping in and maybe Millwall nicking it in that second half. I do fancy Rovers to do it. Your away form, I think, is obviously there to see that you have struggled on the road and Rovers have been good at home, but I don't think it's going to be an entertaining game by any stretch. I think chances will be at a premium. I think if you're a side that likes to hit sides on the counter-attack and absorb, Rovers are also a side that like to do that as well. So might be quite boring at times, not many chances, but ultimately Rovers just need to get the job done and keep the pressure on those sides around us because, if we're not beating you, we're into a couple of tough games away at Sheffield United, home to QPR, and then away at Fulham. And then all of a sudden, that place in the top 6 is really under threat. So this is an important game for Rovers fans. But I fancy us to do it. I'm going to say 2-0. I think we'll get the job done. Brereton being out is a concern, but actually the whole attacking unit hasn't really been firing recently. So I think it's a big game for someone like Tyrese Dolan to really show what he's about. He's made a really good impact since coming back from injury. So 2-0 Rovers, I will say. So 1-0 from Lucas, 2-0 from me. Let's see what Rovers fans say. I think we had Engine right at the start of the show who said, evening guys, 2-1 Rovers, I reckon. JG, off the boil on the goals front, we'll go with 0-0 consecutive games. Can see the logic in that one, Rovers JG. And also Steve, naive Steve, lack of goals still haunting us 0-0. Jackie 2-1 Rovers. Alexander 2-1 Rovers. Hard fought, though. It will be hard fought, Alexander. I agree with you. And then Nick 1-1 Dolan to score. So, I think you can sense a little bit of the anxiety there in those predictions, can't you, Lucas? So this ain't going to be the high-flying Rovers that you might have seen in September, October time. This is going to be a cagey game. So that's the thing that Millwall are going to try and exploit on Saturday. And Scott has just crept in here. Scrappy 1-0 Rovers. So, low scoring, fairly boring game, I think. But ultimately, Rovers just need to get the job done. So, there we have it. Lucas, thank you, mate, for giving up your time as ever and giving us the lowdown on Millwall. So, thank you for coming on. And are you going to the game on Saturday or?
No. No worries. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on.
No worries, mate. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the game. And Rovers fans, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the interactions. Please give this video a like. Please subscribe to the channel. And if you're not going to the game on Saturday, go and join Jared on the watch along as we always do. So thank you, everyone. We will see you soon. Big shout out to our sponsors, Blue Rose Capital and 6 Yards Out. We'll see you all later. Come on, you Blues. The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.